Flosstube, welcome to Snickerdoodle Stitch. My name is Kathleen and this is a channel about cross stitch. If you're returning, thanks so much for coming back, and if it's your first time here, welcome. Hopefully I have something that will inspire you. I've got an FFO, I have a finish, I've been busy on some winter stitching. I have a little bit today about plans. Anybody who's watched me for long knows that I'm not a real big planner. I'm more, let me stitch what's in season and go with the whim. But after doing my whip parade, and I actually took the time when it snowed MLK weekend to enter my whips in a spreadsheet, and then I had the true count, I was a little alarmed at how many I had. So I've got some plans to try and shrink that number by the end of this year. So I'm gonna do my whips. Then I have a handful of patterns that I'm gonna give away. So if you stick around till I'm finished with my whips, I'll go through those and give you the keyword to enter for a drawing that I'll do for my next video. And I have some stitchy haul. So that's where we're at today. And I've got my lovely earrings that my friend Tessa made. She gave us these at Stitch, New Jersey. So they're actually made from embroidery floss. This is 472. She had them on little earring cards, and it's got the floss number on them. So they're my my embroidery floss earrings. I thought I'd put them on for tonight. But diving right in, I have an FFO. Two, actually. I showed these. I had finished stitching them last time. So this is my 7th FFO of this year. I'm off to a good start. Mostly because I was tackling the ornaments that I had in my whips to try and quickly get my number of whips down, and that worked. I'm down 6 whips, but this was my 7th FFO of the year, and I'm reasonably happy with the way these turned out. These were a little difficult to assemble. So these are from the Lila Studio. I don't have the pattern. I think it was called Noel Rouge. But it's one of the Lila Studio's collection of the sweaters. And these are the red ones, or Rouge. And I've got them finished with some sweater fabric on the back, or sweater looking fabric. I had bought that to make some project bags for table gifts for sweater weather a couple years ago. But really, I'm okay with the way these came out. They were a little tricky to assemble. You've got to cut 2 pieces of cardboard for the one to wrap the front around and one to wrap the back around. And wrapping them is a little tricky because of this indent here. So you have to actually slit the fabric at an angle and then fold it around. And it frayed a tiny bit, but it did tuck in under the cording, so you can't tell that had happened. And so that's how I did those 2, and then wrapped the cording around. So they're ready for next Christmas. Missed this year, but that's okay. I didn't finish them until Christmas week because it was after I did the whip parade. Now I have a finish that's a little more in season. I had all of my winter and Valentine whips out and was looking to see, okay, what am I going to work on? And this Emily Call Stitching pattern called Be Mine, and this is one of the ones I'm going to give away. I had it mostly done. I had the little girl and the hearts. All that was really left was the border and the Be Mine on the side. So there was barely anything left to stitch on this. I was a little rolling my eyes at myself why that was even still in whips. I don't remember what happened last year. I'm gonna guess I was stitching on this and then it was after Valentine's Day and I had moved on or something. But I got it finished. This is stitched on, I think it might be 28 count. It's 28 or 32. I think 28. And it's a piece of fabric when I was experimenting with dyeing. And so there's some funny gray mess over here, but that's going to get cut off. So this one I just dug through scraps, and this was some scraps that I had played with dyeing. not sure why it's looking pinky because it's not in person. I think I've got some light reflecting down here off a red bag. But here it is up close. And I haven't decided how I'm going to finish this. Yeah, I don't know. I've got plenty of spaces that I can put Valentine's because the Christmas stuff is gone. Snowmen are out now. But I don't have nearly as much snowman stuff as I do Christmas things. So I've got plenty of room. So I'm hoping to have that FFO'd by the next time I see you, although that will be after Valentine's Day. That'll be the 19th that I'll be recording. Yeah, the 19th is the Thursday. I'll be recording then so that I'll have it ready for Saturday. This next one I've been working on a couple years. It's Rosewood Manor, which are Quakers. I love the way this looks in person. The Valdani threads are beautiful. The variegation is gorgeous. Let me hold it back first so you can get the color effect. It is very wintry, and every time I work on this, I keep thinking, these aren't colors I would put together. I mean, there's some mauves in here, and you do have the greens and reds. There's a deep purple. Then there are kind of creams or cream variegations, but I wouldn't tend to put mauves in. I would lean more toward blues, but it's gorgeous, gorgeous winter colors. Now, there's 9 pages. The first 6 are full pages, and then the bottom 3 are only partial pages. This is the bottom of the first 3 pages. So I have about 40% done. Here it is up close. I love the way it looks. I don't love stitching on this piece. And so the Valdanis you use as they come off the spool. So it's 3-stranded floss and twisted together, and you use it that way. This is Picture This Plus Dwarf in 28 count, and we all know Picture This Plus is very tightly woven. There's not a lot of space. And as thick as the floss is, when you drag it through, it wants to knot on the back as you're stitching. So you have to be really careful. I mean, you kind of get a feel for it, and you'll feel it, like, oh, my thread got shorter than it should have. Flip it over, sure enough, there's a knot you got to pull out. But every now and then I'll miss one. And then I go to do something on the back, and I'm like, seriously, I've got a knot there. And then I'm unstitching to try and get this knot and loop that's stuck on the back out. So that gets a little frustrating. I'm using thread conditioner. I tried using a bigger needle to see if that would solve it. It didn't. It's just the challenge of working with the Valdanis on this Picture This Plus fabric. Other people complain about the white snowflakes. Those are all 1 strand. You actually pull a strand off the Valdani to do all these little white snowflakes, and they're all backstitch. I don't mind those at all. I get more frustrated when I'm using the full 3-strand and it keeps knotting on the back, and I'll do 10 stitches and I've got another knot to deal with. You know, I'm dangling the thread, I'm doing everything to keep it from doing that. It just, I've decided that it's because the fabric is so tightly woven and it's thick thread that you're pulling through, it's just gonna happen. So unfortunately, I don't love stitching on this, but I love the end result. So we'll keep plowing through. I want to get some more done on that this winter. That one won't get finished this winter, but the next couple things I'm hoping that I can finish this winter. So I mentioned my whips. When I entered them on the spreadsheet, I had 75 whips. When I had manually counted, I got like 69, but I think there were double projects in some of the project bags and some things like that, so that when I counted, I didn't capture everything. So I had 75 whips. Since then, I deconstructed 2. I'm not going to do them. I took the pattern, the floss, the fabric, they're all taken apart. They're not in whips anymore. And I have finished 6 now that I finished the, I think 6 includes the Be Mine. It might be 7 with that. I'm thinking that was number 6. And then I had 2 starts since my whip parade. So I'm down to 69 now. I've identified 20 projects that I could realistically finish this year. There's more to do on them than there was on the Be Mine, which, like I said, I don't know why that didn't get finished last year. But there's enough progress done on the project that I realistically could get them finished this year without like making them focus pieces or anything. There are 2 I'm counting in the 20 that are focus pieces that will be a lot of work. One is Rosewood Manor Cornwood Cottage, and the other one is Works by ABC Elegant Lace, which is the sal that I'm doing. You'll see it next time. Tomorrow night is our Zoom when we'll start the February section, so 3rd section of that. So those 2 do have some more work to do on them, and they will take me the year of working on them. These other ones, I think, when it's during the season that I'm doing that stitching, I can realistically get them done. So these next few fall in that category. This one is Crocette Gogo, 2 hearts. That's the pattern. I fell in love with this one because I don't have many Valentine's pieces, and it's because middle of February, I'm in the throes of winter stitching. I love snowmen. I want all the snowmen things. I don't always love stitching them because it's a lot of repetitive white. These were actually fun because you can see there's some snowflake motifs happening on the snowmen. They've got their little sweaters, and they're also not very big. So these ones were fun to stitch. But I love this piece because it gave me snowmen and Valentine's Day. And here it is. This is stitched on 32 count vintage Stormy Night. And I had this snowman across through this middle section with the heart and the basket done. So since I picked this up, I did the alphabets and border and the pink snowman, and I'm loving the way this one's coming out. So all that's left to do are some snowflakes up in that corner, a little bit more of those single stitches for the border, and some alphabet, but very little. So this will be finished next time. Next time I see you, this will be done. One more out of my whips. This next one is from CrossStitcher magazine. It's by Tiny Modernist. In CrossStitcher magazine, it's January 2021. And I think I tore this out of a magazine that somebody had at a freebie table. There's always a lot of magazines on the freebie table, and I think that's where I got this. You can buy the pattern from Tiny Modernist. She sells the pattern now. In the magazine, it was called Winter Wonderland. The pattern that she's selling is called Winter Band Sampler. And it looks like in the magazine, it was originally like a part a month. But in this January 2021, it's all of the parts. And this is the pattern. And last time you saw this was last video. And I had this green chain link border done, and I had the mittens right here done, but I didn't have the foxes or skates or mugs on either side done. So that's where we left off with this. And I had a goal. I said I would be happy this year if I could make it down to having these words done, because then it would leave enough. There would be a small enough amount left that I could get it done this year. I said that before I really counted my whips for real, putting them on the spreadsheet. And so now I have different plans. I've made it down to those words. So I got the foxes and skates and mugs done, and I got this whole section with the sled done and these words. So I just have that bottom section that I had just shown left to do. I would really like to get this done this year. So I've got 20 things that I identified that would be realistic for me to get done this year, and this is one of them, but it is going to take some work. It doesn't look like much at first glance, but then when you really start looking at it, this is a lot of solid stitching. So it's a little more than what it looks like at first glance. It may take me 2 more rotations to get this done, but I would really like to have this finished and move it out of my whips. This is on 32 count Jack Frost from Seraphim Fabrics, and I love this Jack Frost. It's the perfect blue that the white really pops on it. You can see the opalescence in there. It's an opalescent that I have. And I would love to get my hand on some more of this. So I'm really liking it for winter stitching. But that's where we're at with that. This little guy, this was actually a lot of solid stitching too. It was when I stitched that I went, oh, that bottom part's going to be a little more than I think. I think I spent a whole weekend day on this when we had the big snow weekend, the Martin Luther King holiday weekend. We got, where I'm at, we had 8 inches of snow on Sunday, and then on top of that, we had 3 inches of sleet. So everything is a solid block of ice. Nothing has melted yet. It's been in the 20s since then. We only had, I think, 2 days that hit 32. And now this weekend we're back in the 20s, and the next week we're to go up into the 40s. So some may melt then. It's starting to melt, even with the couple days in the 30s, but everything's a mess around here. The development's still just one lane, plowed in and out, and I think the problem was they kept up with the plowing, but then the sleet fell, and I'm reading that, like the guys are saying, our equipment can't handle it anymore. It's solid ice, just can't do it. It is what it is at this point. So anyway, I had one whole day, I think, that I actually stitched on this that weekend. And if I squirm around, I have messed up my back, my upper back. I don't know. I think it was a combination of shoveling and sitting stitching too much that weekend. That's partly why I picked up the Bee Mine, because that was small, and I decided that supporting the larger Q-Snap, I needed a break from that. So I picked up the Valentine, so it was just something tiny in a little tiny hoop that I had. It wasn't a heavy Q-Snap. But my goal is to hopefully get this done. This next one, I had this one on the maybe I could get it done. So I had the 75 whips. I had them all in the spreadsheet. As I did the spreadsheet, I made a note if it was one that, yes, I could get this done. And then I had some that were maybes. So there were 20 yeses and 10 maybes, which that's 30. I mean, that would take my 75 down to 45, assuming I didn't start anything, which I'm going to start some things, but I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. This one is Silver Creek Samplers Love at Frost Sight, and this is another one that I fell in love with. I like the fonts that Silver Creek Samplers uses. They're very unique. They often have that shadow like the frost does on here. But this was another one that for me crossed winter and Valentine's, and all I had done last time was the snow globe. I didn't even have the snowflakes done in the snow globe. I had some of the little dots and the snowmen and the globe itself. I haven't put the medallion with the year on it yet because I want to put the year whenever I finish this, which I'm hoping will be this year. So when I worked on this, I got this, I got the Lovette and the FR, these snowflakes, and these two snowflakes here I got done. So there's a few more snowflakes to go in, and then the ST and First Sight, or Sight. It's just Sight because it's frost in the middle. Yeah, love it, frost Sight. So I just need the ST and the Sight, and some more snowflakes over there. This is on 32 count, Roxie Floss Code Billie Jean, and I bought it at Stitch North. They always have like some end cuts, odd cuts. I suspect this one might have been on there because it's got a drip of dye on it, but it's high. I'll frame it. I think I actually measured this and I know what size frame. I don't remember now, but once I have it stitched, I'll be able to figure it out. I think I figured out what size frame it would go in, and that was high enough that it'll be cut off or wrapped around to the back, but won't be showing. But this is a fun one to stitch. It's a combination of overdyed and DMC. I mean, the weight is just 5,200, and these snowflakes are actually blue and they're DMC. I think this is the one where the blue that's called for was actually a shade darker, but it wasn't showing up very well on this fabric, and so luckily it was one of the blues that's in the sequence, and there was a lighter one that I could grab. So, but that's Love It Frost Sight. The ST and the Sight is probably, and then I've got to get this medallion and some more snowflakes in there. It's probably like 3.5 nights of stitching. I know I spent more than 2 nights on this. I got enough done in 2 nights that I thought, you know what, if I really stick with this, I can get this one finished this year too and out of rotation. So now, working on all these means I am not starting anything. And I had some winter things already that I wanted to start. So what I'm foregoing starting are one of the, what is it, Cherry Blossoms patterns. And I have this wood stand. I mean, it's unpainted, but it's the wood finishing piece. I got it when I was at Galleria last year. So I really wanted to do one of these Cherry Blossom snow globes and put it on the finishing stand. I've even got the flosses in here. I was looking at this earlier. Some of these flosses are no, I guess they're not the same color. It's just the same kinds of colors, but they're slightly different. I really wanted to start these. That's not gonna happen because I'm gonna finish what I've got started. So these probably will not get started until next year. If I got those finished, I could probably justify starting one, but the other one that I really wanted to start this year was the Quaint Rose Needlearts Percy Penguin. I've got him all kitted up, except fabric. I don't have fabric pulled for these, but they're fancy flosses, and I picked these up back Christmas week. A lot of the LNSs have like pre-inventory sales, and I had loaded up on flosses for some projects that I knew I wanted to do. So I'm really bummed to not be starting the penguin. I got him at Stitching in the Wild last September and thought, ooh, yay, I'm gonna start him this winter, but I really need to finish some of the things I have. He's one that I wasn't sure I'm gonna stitch that full piece or if I'm just gonna do him and finish him like the animal crackers. But to console myself, because I'm not starting him, I don't have much Easter in my whips. I think I only have 2 things, maybe 3. No, I think only 2. And I also got Roxie Rabbit from Quaint, why do I keep saying Quaint Nose? Quaint Rose Needlearts. And I probably wouldn't want to stitch both of these in the same year. I would probably get a little bored. Like if I started with him, I would be less interested in starting this one right after that. So I may get to start the bunny. That's still TBD, but if I get to start a winter piece, it'll be one of these 2. And I don't, like this one especially, that's not a lot of stitching. They're 99 by 107, but there's a lot of negative space in there, so we'll see. More on plans in a minute, or a few minutes. The last piece I stitched on this time was Mirabilia Giggles in the Snow. It's this piece, and I am modifying it. I'm not doing 2 separate pieces. I'm doing it on 1 piece of fabric to be framed in 1 frame, and I'm not putting the word Snow Angel and some of those snow splatters that look sort of like you've been plucking dandelions. I'm doing this on 28 count Snow White Chauvelin, which I need to put a lint roller on because this time of year I'm always wearing fuzzy dark things, and my fabric is clean, but it is picking up lint, like just microscopic bits of fuzz as I'm sitting stitching. So last year I had the girl done, and I had this part of the Snow Angel swoosh in the snow and a little bit of his arm. But on MLK Day, I did all of his jacket there is what I got in. If I did nothing but stitch this and those other 3 pieces, I could get this done also this year. I just don't know if for a month I want to only stitch on those 4 pieces, so we'll see. I would love to have this finished. I love this piece. They're just fun, and I am definitely a snow lover. Fall's my favorite season, but winter is next. And I love the snow. I should have moved somewhere north where we got more snow. We don't get much here in the mid-Atlantic. So I just love this piece with the snow angels. So I will stitch on this some more. This I think was on my could maybe finish it this year, but not one that I'm necessarily gonna break my neck trying to get done. It's not going to get done in time to put it out with winter stuff, although this is so cute. I will have a hard time not just keeping this out year round. I love that piece. So that was all of my stitching that I did. I'm trying to decide. Since I've talked some already about plans, let me do one more quick thing about plans, and then I'll do the pattern giveaway. So that is coming up. I promised that was right after the whip, so now I'm breaking my promise. Sorry. So my goal this year, since I had the 75 whips, I really thought before I did my whip parade or any of the counts, I thought it was around 50. After the whip parade, I did a quick count. It was not very scientific. I knew it wasn't perfect. I came out with like 76 or 77, something like that. When I entered them in the spreadsheet, there was 75. Since then, there were 2 I deconstructed. I had 2 starts Christmas week, and then I have 6 finishes. So I'm now at 69. And with 20 pieces that I could definitely finish, then this number is getting down into the 50 range. So I'm going to try limiting my starts this year to, I want to do a birthday start. And my birthday is the middle of next month. It's the week after market. I mean, a full week after market. And there, has everybody been eyeing up the stuff coming out for market? They're starting to, designer by designer, those are trickling out. I've been scooping out Garon's website, or my one LNS is really good about posting on the Facebook page. As they get the notifications from the designers, they're posting the pictures. And so far, what's on my must-have list, there's a couple new cats from Cotton Pixels. So I've stitched like 4 of those. They're the ones that are tiny, and it's a little black cat always on them. And the pattern calls for the cat to be beaded. I have always just used floss for the cat. I don't want the beaded cat. But there's other beads on there. So it's cross-stitch with some beading, but they're small. They're like, you know, a night or 2 and you're done. Great. Sorry about that. Had an interruption. I forget where I left off now. So I've been stocking the market releases, and I've got the little cats from Cotton Pixels that I really want. But the blue flower has some gorgeous pieces coming out. One of them is a big square, and it's all flowers, as a monarch butterfly in the middle. And I'm eyeing that up for my birthday start, possibly. It will kind of depend what else I see, and it will depend if I can get it by my birthday. So it would only be a week after market until my birthday. So I'm not sure I can get it in time for a birthday start. This is a milestone birthday for me, so I really do want to do a start this year. And then they have one that's a long, skinny, it's coneflowers something. Coneflowers in the name, but they're yellowy gold coneflowers, and in my head, coneflowers around here are always purple. But it's very long and skinny, like it would almost be a short bell pull. It's like 79 by 225 or something like that. And I couldn't think how I would want to finish it because it is so long and skinny, but it's really pretty as well. The other one, the square one, is the one that I have on my must-have list that I'm considering doing for my birthday. The other start I was going to allow myself to do was when I'm on the cruise this summer. I'm going to be with some stitchers. And I had bought something back in December that I thought I was going to do. I saw this pattern and thought, oh, I have another one from the Travel Together series. And I could do them on the cruise. So I already had this one, the balloon. I bought this one, I think, when it first came out. And then when I bought the cruise ship, I bought the camper. There is the caravan. I think I'm in England or something. So my plan was to stitch all 3 together on one piece of fabric like this. But there's a lot of flosses in this, so it's really bulky, and we're not going to have that much stitch time on this cruise, unlike the Alaska cruise. So Alaska cruise, you're in port or in dock until like 1 or 2 o'clock, and then you're back out again on the water. And so you've got a lot of time in the afternoon and the evenings for stitching, other than, you know, the usual cruise activities that you might be doing. But with the European cruise, when I look at that itinerary, we're in dock until like 5 or 6 o'clock. And so it's going to be a very long day of sightseeing, and it's going to be very hot, and that drains me. So I'm not likely to get stitching done in the evening on this cruise. I just don't think so. Maybe an hour or so. We have 1 day at sea, so I will have 1 day with a lot of stitching, I'm sure. And then my flight back's 8.5 hours. So I'm thinking 1 project, but I need 1 project that is big enough that I know it will last me like 2 full days of stitching. And I'm leaning toward an ink circles that I started when I was at Acorns and Threads right before the cruise to Alaska a couple years ago, because it's a single color, so I don't have to haul along the bulk of all this floss, because, you know, with this kind of trip, suitcase space is precious. So I won't have to haul along all the floss, and I know it's a project that's big enough that it has enough stitching left to do on it for that. I also think it's on 28 count. It is on a mid-tone blue, so I need to double check what kind of lighting I need to work on that, but that's what I'm leaning toward. Instead of this, I'll use this for a different trip since it is travel related, but I don't think I'm gonna fly with that. So I'll allow myself a start there, maybe a start my birthday, and then it's Stitching in the Wild. I won't take something to start, but if they always have a fabulous trunk show, and they've always got floss packs and fabric for the exclusives that they have there with their trunk show. And so there's usually something that catches my eye there that I really want to stitch. And so I will allow myself a start there. And then other than that, my hope is that the only things I start would be smalls, like things that could be finished in 2 or 3 evenings. Not something that's gonna sit in whips and add to my count. So I'm thinking of maybe a mid-year whip parade, just so I can do a reality check and not get surprised like I was this year. All right, I promised the patterns to give away. So the first one was the Emily Call Be Mine. And so if you leave a comment with the word mine, I've got the words on blue Post-it notes so you can see what I'm saying and how it's spelled. My accent, sometimes it can be hard to tell what I'm saying. So yeah, if you just leave a comment, I will do a drawing on February 19th for the video that I would push out the morning of the Saturday the 21st. So this next one is Winter Posy from Jeanette Douglas, and the word for this one is joy. And this one has enough silk thread in there. I'm pretty sure that if you do it on 40 count, there's enough silk floss there. I got this on a freebie table, and they had left the silk flosses in there, and I think I only pulled 1 strand of each out, except one color was maybe 2 strands. So I can tell looking at this that there's still plenty, except one brown color. Well, it looks like 3 strands. I think that might even be okay. If you're on any count, if you're on 28, 32, 36, I'm not sure there's enough silk. The pattern still works fine, but if you're on 40 count, I know there's enough silks there. 36 maybe. This next one is Satsuma Street, A Merry Pair, and the word for this one would be merry. And there's enough sequins in there. There aren't any beads, because I think there was only like 2 beads left over. But there's enough sequins in there for the beard, and there's some on her coat and stuff. This next one is Little House Needleworks Lovable Petites, and the word for this one is heart. These are some tiny little Valentine's pieces. And the last one I have this time, you would have it in time for Easter. I'm in season now, is Mr. Bean's Garden from Stitches by Ethel, and just the word bunny. He's a cute little stitch. He fits in a 5x7 frame really nicely. Either 5x7 or 4x6. I forget now. his dimension, the ratio of his width and height are such that he will fit in a standard frame. I'll say that. So those were the giveaways. I want to show a little bit of haul. And then I'm gonna put the clip at the end for my quilt. I said last time, I think, that I was gonna do that. And like the video had been out for a week, and all of a sudden I went, I don't remember splicing that on the end. And I went back and looked, and I had never spliced on the clip about the videos, or the quilt. So I apologize for that. I will get it this time. All right, a little bit of haul. I got the latest Sip and Stitch box from Primrose Cottage. I had said I wasn't going to get any more. I had a Halloween one and I had a Christmas one in the past. But I had a Primrose Cottage Stitch gift certificate. And they've been so generous with their freebie patterns that I wanted to give them some love. So I bought the Sip and Stitch box. It was Valentine's too. And I thought I needed some more Valentine's patterns. But this was the freebie. This blue, I don't know what happened on this. My printer did something funky there. It didn't on the back. It's a colored pattern. I mean, the pattern itself is in color, and it didn't do that goofy blue halo thing. But cute little pattern. I love their freebies. It's rare that there's one that I'm like, I don't want that. So in the Sip and Stitch box, this time there was a mug, a travel mug like this with strawberries, very cute. The box is sort of a Valentine and strawberry theme, I would say. So this one actually doesn't say Primrose Cottage. Often, well, no, I guess just the Christmas mug said that. The Halloween one was like a little cauldron. I think it said Primrose Cottage on one side. It was a cauldron mug, but it was made for finishing something in it. So you always seem to get a mug of some sort. A scissor fob. I think there's been a scissor fob in every one that I've gotten. In all three. There's floss drops. These are so cute. Little strawberries. They would have been good floss drops for my Cornwall Cottage sampler, but they're already floss dropped up. Strawberry needle minder. I don't really use needle minders, but I have quite the collection of them. And then I haven't gotten to the patterns yet. Well, let me do that before this. So the patterns that were in here, first there was Toadstool Kisses, and these eventually are for sale. They're just kind of a sneak release in the Sip and Stitch box. So, but this Toadstool Kisses is really cute. And then this one, and I think that Toadstool Kisses, like the style of it goes with that freebie pattern that I had a minute ago. And then Happy Valentine's Day. And how sweet is that with those two little birds? The style on this one's a little different, but the colors are similar. It's really cute. And then you always get a card that tells everything that's in your box. And I'm out of hands. Sorry, I gotta cover something because there's a pattern. On the back of the card with your contents, you always get another little kind of freebie pattern that I don't think is ever for sale. And so this one is this little love where the O is the strawberry. And they've got it finished on that long pillow. So that's really cute. Every box I've gotten had a sheet of stickers. I'm gonna have to put some of these on my halo lamp, or, oh, that reminded me of something. okay. I don't know what I did with it. This is actually my second time filming this tonight, so I'm feeling a little, in some ways, more organized and in some disorganized because I already put something away that I had out. Let me get back to the box. I've gotten distracted. So you also get the floss pack for the flosses that are used in the patterns that are in there, and then the finishing pack. So there's 2 pieces of fabric, feels like about 2 fat quarters, and then the trims. There's white rickrack and there's white mini chenille, and it looks like there's a piece, at least one piece of felt, white felt is there. I can see that. So it's everything that you would need for finishing, if you wanted to do the finishing exactly like they have them on the pattern, is what they're usually doing. So like this one's got the white chenille, and I don't know what's on the back, one of these 2 fabrics. And this one's got the rickrack and the little heart fabric, and there's the little heart fabric. So they give you everything to finish like the patterns. So if you're ever curious about what's in a sip and stitch box, I'm sure you've seen other people showing them, but that's what's in them. Oh, what I got distracted with earlier that isn't here anymore. My new favorite travel item, if I'm traveling somewhere where I'm driving. So this weekend I'm driving to Baltimore for the weekend. I'm gonna visit with some friends, and I'm gonna hit up the Stitching Post. They're having a Super Bowl weekend sale. So almost everything is 20% off on Saturday. And I have a couple things I wanna try and get. There's some flosses I need. I am going ahead and assembling. I already pulled the ones that I have, the flosses for that blue flower. I'm really planning on that being my birthday start. We'll see if my plans change. But my favorite travel item now is a 100-watt LED bulb. And I don't have one in here. So the glass on an LED bulb is thicker than our traditional old incandescent, and they don't have mercury inside like the CFLs. If you break an LED bulb, your only risk is cutting yourself. There is some nickel and a couple other things, but they're trace amounts and they're not airborne. You don't need to worry about them like you did with the CFLs, where they wanted you to be very careful with the disposal, careful if you did break one, because there was something mercury vaporized that you didn't want to inhale. But most hotels that I stay at now, I'm usually at Hilton or Marriott, kind of their lower end chain that Hilton or Marriott have though, because when I travel for work, I'm always in a Hilton or a Marriott in one of their business class hotels. So I have a lot of perks and points in those 2 hotel chains. Well, the room almost always has either a sofa or an armchair, often with a footstool. And I'm finding more and more that they've got like a reading lamp there. Worst case, if they don't, you've got a lamp on the wall next to the bed. Well, if you unscrew a light bulb and put a 100-watt true daylight color LED in, I can see fine. So I don't have to travel with my Halo Go. I just tuck that in my suitcase, like in with my clothes, where it's got some cushion around it. And I've done that, I think, the last 3 trips. I think 3 trips ago, I went and bought a light bulb. And I was like, oh, this is great. I love this. And so now I keep this one light bulb in my bag, where I keep chargers and things that they're like my travel ones. So I always take my light bulb if I want it. I just take out the light bulb that's in there and put it next to my suitcase so that I remember to grab my 100-watt. I mean, LED bulbs are not cheap, but they're cheaper than a Halo Go. They're also much smaller, so, you know, it fits right in my suitcase. All right, and I thought of it to share with you guys because I was packing to go away this weekend. unpacking my light bulb. I'm going to show just a couple things of haul. I have more haul than this, but I don't think I'm going to go through it all tonight. I don't know if I mentioned or not, but this is my second time recording this. I recorded it once. I had some technical issues with the video, and so I'm starting over again. In my perusing in Hobby Lobby, I discovered in their stitching aisle, and I had not seen these in there before. Maybe they've been there a long time. I think they're new, but they're these little kits that have a wooden shape that you can cross stitch on. I only bought the heart shape because I thought it's the only one that was wide enough, that basically had enough surface squares for me to stitch different motifs in there. I didn't like the picture on the front, which is how I may have just passed this in there before. It looks like it's lime green in the middle. The colors in person, like I thought I was just buying it for the shape and wouldn't stitch it, but the colors in person are actually much prettier. It's this kind of buttery yellow, and then ecru is most of the background, and then that blue. But it's a nice little wooden piece to cross stitch on. And the best part, $1.29. Can't beat that. I know Michael's has had some wooden shapes that you can stitch on. They're not $1.29. I was like, wow. I bought 2 of these. I don't know what I just did with the other one, but I bought 2 of them. This might get stitched before Christmas. Primrose Cottage was doing a stitch along, I think a 3-week stitch along with this Blueberry Ridge Postmouse's Christmas delivery. And I love mice so much. Cute, non-real mice I love. I've collected them since I was a kid. And this little guy is so stinking cute. And this pattern was impossible to get because they were doing the stitch along, and so everybody was snatching it up. And I finally got a hold of it. So I don't know if I can wait till next Christmas to stitch that. And this is a start that I could allow myself to, because that's a few nights and he's done. Probably 3 nights. Yeah, I'm gonna guess 3 nights to stitch him. So I'd be allowed to start him, because I wouldn't be risking increasing my volume. This next thing, I love quilt books. I just like to, I'll have them next to my stitchy spot, and I'll just pick one up and flip through it and drool over things, the colors, the photography, the projects, like that little holder gadget thingy is really cute. That that one didn't catch my eye before. I might have to stitch that. That's really cute. So Black Friday, Fat Quarter Shop had this book for $5. I mean, it's a $30 book. It was $5-ish. It was like $4 to $6, somewhere in there. And so I was like, oh, for that price, I'm gonna buy that. I was buying a couple other things, and I thought, I'm gonna buy that. That's cheaper than you can buy a magazine. And I do like to flip through these, and then I'll have the book. And I have some other Bonnie and Camille books, so I knew what I knew what to expect. But as I looked through it, in the very back, they have taken this quilt and converted it into a cross stitch pattern. And how cute is that cross stitch pattern? Here she has it on like a wall hanging over here. It's stitched in Cosmo, but they've got it charted for Cosmo and DMC. And on 14 count Ada, it's 11 by 13 and a half. So it's 153 by 190. So it's not small, but it's really cute. So now I have a piece that I stitched that was Bonnie and Camille cross stitch. And Robin Pickens is another motive fabric designer who's been doing patterns. She's got gorgeous patterns out too, but for anyone who quilts or is in the quilt shops, we all need to remind ourselves to definitely peek around in the quilt books. I'm starting to see cross stitch just snuck in there. Like, here's a bonus project for you. It's not quilting, but it's our colors and designs. And so yeah, I don't know when that will get added to be stitched or if I will ever stitch it. I didn't buy the book thinking I was gonna cross stitch anything out of it, but I thought I would share that. Actually, thinking about it now, I'll have to look at the stitch count, but some of these, like even just this flower, or some of these like traditional quilt block motifs would definitely fit in that little wooden heart from Hobby Lobby. The $1.29 heart kit. You know, one of these, not obviously not the whole thing, but one thing I think would fit in there. I'd have to look at the pattern and the counts, but maybe I'll do that. That might get stitched something from it after all. In fact, let me put the heart with the book so I don't forget that idea. I think that's everything I've got for this week. And I'll do the drawing, like I said, on the 19th. So get your comments in with the word if you want to be in the lottery for the pattern. And yeah, I'll draw that the 19th, and that's the video that I'll push out the morning of the 21st. But I hope everybody is staying safe and warm. The whole country has had crazy weather, it seems like, except for maybe one little section out west. Although even there, I work with a lot of people from Salt Lake City, and they have had no snow this year. None in the valley. They have up at the ski resorts, but in the valley, no snow. And meanwhile, I'm getting 8 inches of snow with 3 inches of sleet on top. And this wasn't our first snow this year. Yeah. I love it because I love snow, but it is creating a lot of chaos everywhere between icy roads that can't get plowed. Plows can't get through here now because the snow became solid blocks of ice. They had like a day after that sleet that ended the, you know, we had 8 inches of snow, 3 inches of sleet, then it all stopped. They kind of had that next day, and by the following day, it was solid blocks of ice. The one guy said, I can't get my equipment through anything. So that's kind of where we're at, but hopefully, I'm hoping the roads and everything, that's kind of a mess. My mailman has to get out and climb up a mountain to get to my mailbox. I need to just put my mail on hold. I don't get anything that important. Anyway, I'm rambling at this point. I'm going to call it a night and wish you all happy stitching. And if you want to learn some more about the quilt behind me or see a close-up view of it, stick around and I'll put it in right here. See you next time. Bye. Okay, this is my latest quilt that I have finished. It's called Poinsettia Star. It's from Planted Seed Designs, the pattern is, and it is 16 blocks. I've got them 4x4. I think the pattern called for 20 blocks, but this finished at the size of quilt that I wanted. And I'm going to move in closer so you can see the block construction. So this is one block here, and you can see within the block, it's all just half squares, triangles. So very simple assembly, especially if you use one of the methods where you make your half square triangles and then trim them down so they end up being a perfect size and you don't have anything you're trying to ease in or fiddle with. I got in my head that I wanted this to have quilting that was sort of swirly or snowflakey looking, and so that meant it had to go to a long armor. This was one of the quilts that I took this fall that were the first ones I've ever had long armed. And Starla from Guided Star Quilts did a fantastic job. And I'm going to show you the back so you can see the quilting a little better. If I move in, there you can see sort of a snowflake, and then we do have some swirls happen there, and I was thrilled with this pattern on this quilt. I really wanted it just looking snowy. I thought the finished pattern looked like giant snowflakes, so absolutely thrilled. I did put this silver fabric on for binding, and I will never use the metallic fabric for binding again. I tore the crap out of my hand, out of my one finger, when I was doing the hand stitching part on the back. So I've got to confess, those stitches holding that down are farther apart than I would normally do, because pushing a needle through that metallic fabric was definitely tougher than just using a standard non-metallic cotton. So note to self, don't select the metallic fabric again. But that's my quilt. I'm thrilled with it, and you're going to be seeing it behind me now for the rest of this winter.